Our NFL draft focus is going to continue with a breakdown of Avieon Terrell. We didn't get to Avieon Terrell yesterday because obviously we were having a really fun conversation, but I know there's other spots you might want to go as well. Would you like to start with the player or something else?
Well, Kevin, I like lists.
Ooh, okay.
America does love a list, ladies and gentlemen. And one of the things that we've been adamant about is we're trying to find for the Cowboys 12 and 20. Like you gotta land these. You gotta nail these. You gotta get them right. We want to feel comfortable whenever the name is said that we watched these players. We have a good idea, and we told the Tolos, here's what you're getting out of these players. And so Alec and I have been watching the players. Kevin is doing his due diligence as well, making sure he has the questions for us too. I always appreciate those because sometimes I don't know the answer, and I'm like, well, crap, I need to go look this up and find some things out. Well,
that's how we all learn.
Exactly. If you have to ask, you'll never know. That's what Angelica from Rugrats told me once.
Yeah, I don't know if I would bring that logic forward into your adulthood, but yeah.
But I think the big question, and I heard Sean and RJ ask this morning, and I think we keep asking it to ourselves, can we really believe that the Cowboys are changing? And I'm not here to tell you that I think Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones have changed their approach to anything. I'm not here to tell you that. I am here to tell you that I think that Schottenheimer and his staff are here to do the work that it takes. Okay. And I truly believe that for multiple reasons. Last year during the coaching search, he had a real coaching search to fill his staff, except for Eberflus. Then this year, he had a real coaching search to fill his defensive side of the ball. And Kevin, quite honestly, there are names on the defensive side of the ball when it comes to the coaching staff that I love. I really am excited about, more than just Christian Parker. So I feel like we did the right thing by having some football people on that side of the ball. But then it comes to the next question is, how are you going to fill this defense? And we keep asking about free agency. Stephen Jones is like, look, we're committing to that side of the ball.
Right.
We know that we have to fix the defense. That's the first thing. Well, Kevin, I'm looking at the list of names of people that the Dallas Cowboys have had formal interviews with at the Combine already. Now, obviously, we have the best coverage on the planet at the Combine with Brian Broaddus and our own Bobby Belt and Sean and RJ being out there doing the shows live from there.
Can I tell you what I loved? Is because it got described to us, but seeing Bobby's video and seeing John Schneider light up, like, get somebody to look at you the way that John Schneider looked at Brian Broaddus at the Combine, and you're going to be set. And he's like giving his answer. He goes, and his face lit up, and he pointed over at him, and he's like, it's Brian. And I just, like, he wasn't saying, like, he was saying, there's my friend. And I just thought that was super cool. And like you said, you also had Clayton Adams this morning, Mike Florio. We've already had Tim Kirkjian. So, like, it's an extravaganza of things happening at the Fan.
Sports being covered all over the nation by 105.3 The Fan. And Kevin, like, you're dead on. If I'm Broaddus, and I don't know how he thinks, and I don't know how you think, but if I'm Broaddus and I see John Schneider light up like that, I kind of feel like I earned a ring too. That was my one and only ever intern, and he's won 2 Super Bowls, mind you. He's been to, 3?
Yep.
And he's won 2 of them. And I feel like I did something. I was in the room to help guide that guy in some way, shape, or form. Something I said rubbed off on the way he thinks and he watches players and what he wants to build as a team. And I'll tell you this. Whenever I started doing my own version of scouting, reading Broaddus's Scout's Eye on DallasCowboys.com, I know he says everything's David Hellman, but what Broaddus was seeing, he just didn't know how to write. He needed an editor. And so he was like, but he knew what he was trying to say. One of the things I always got was toughness. When it came to toughness, that was one of the biggest factors that Broaddus was just like, I need a player that's this kind of guy. There's just something nasty about the game that you kind of have to play it that way. And so you're always kind of looking to find that guy. We call it heart or, whatever it is. There's just this mean streak that comes along with them as soon as they put a helmet on. The great Wayne Gretzky once said, Kevin,
you miss all the shots you don't take.
There's some guys that when you put a stick in their hand, they become a different man.
Oh.
And you know those players when you see them. And I think that's the case. Travis Frederick was a perfect example of put a helmet on that guy, nicest person you'll ever meet in public. And then he puts the helmet on and he might just destroy you. So, like, those are the other qualities. I think, Alec, we're always trying to see that whenever we're watching these guys. But here are some names the Cowboys have had formal interviews with so far. Now, again, as the week goes on, newer other position groups start to come in. So you'll get cornerbacks and receivers and quarterback. You'll get all those things by the end of the weekend. Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, C.J. Allen, Jacob Rodriguez. Here's a name that I need to go watch, Josiah Trotter. I feel like that name's an important one to keep an eye on. Xavion Sorey, who has a very interesting story that I need to go, Sorey's story. I need to go watch a little more on this guy because I didn't see enough from him this past year at Arkansas. And I need to go study up on him just a little bit because that's a guy that I think the Joneses were probably like, hey, he was an Arkansas linebacker. Can you take a look at him for us? We'd certainly love that. Peter Woods, Cassius Howell.
Yes.
And David Bailey. Now, and Ruben Bain. So all these, there's a lot more to it, but we brought up a ton of these names already, and so we're kind of in that range where the Cowboys are looking. Some of these other names, Kevin, will clue you in on, hey, this might be a round that the Cowboys are looking at this spot too if they can't get this.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. I'm very interested to find out to the conversations that some of these players had. Maybe Nick Harris will be able to elaborate a little more at 12:20 when we have him on later today. Alec, as you're seeing the list of names, I know Nicole Hutchinson, Tommy Yaris, they're all putting names out there. You seeing something that you're like, ooh, I'm glad that they're talking to that guy.
This is going to sound cheap, all of them, because it's defenders.
Yes.
I just love seeing that they are taking the time to speak, even with the people that are probably going to be outside of their projected pick range. And a note that should be put out there so people don't get confused. Arvell Reese is now going by Vel Reese.
Okay.
Yeah, his name tags and everything at the draft just say Vel Reese. So I guess that's what he wants to go by now. So don't get confused if you see a Vel instead of Arvell. But yeah, like seeing them take their time just to chat, and some of those conversations are probably quick. Like, hey, we're probably not going to be able to pick you, but we could ask you about one of your teammates.
That conversation to be like, hey, I'd love it if you fell in the draft, and he's like, I would love it if I didn't.
Yeah,
See you later.
I think some of these conversations might be overly simple at times, but there are a lot of teams that are putting out multiple high-end prospects, so maybe you do get an Arvell Reese or a Vel Reese now in the room, and you say, okay, tell me about this guy. We know you're probably going to be a top 5 guy. Can you tell me a little bit more what it's like playing next to this guy? Or you can ask Akeem Mesidor, what's it like playing alongside this guy, vice versa. I like picking the brains of these people and saying, hey, there might be somebody even in the second, third round, beyond, whatever it might be. You might have the chance to pick their brain a little bit and say, can you tell me a little bit more about this guy?
I have an update. You can stick with Arvell Reese. So, at the podium where it said that, Arvell said, no, you can stick with Arvell. And he said it was a surprise that it said that. So he has spoken out and said, no! Well, he just like, Arvell's fine.
How does the NFL get that
made
wrong?
it 2 more. That's a great point.
No, I really think that he needs to go ahead and say it now. Because if you don't say your name out loud, who's going to know it?
Do you kind of want him to say it's actually pronounced Arvile? And he'd be like, oh,
it's actually John, guys. Y'all been reading it wrong the whole time. And you're like, what? He's like, some of these letters are sideways. It's just a different way that they did it. It's just trying to be cool.
He would like to dispute that. And for a top 5 prospect, it feels odd. He's not some guy who might get drafted. I feel like a lot of people think he's the best prospect in the draft. He said, stick with Arvell.
All right, let's talk about Avieon Terrell now out of Clemson. He is a cornerback, junior, 5'11", 180 pounds. Now, as that screamed to you, he's one of these other dudes we've talked about so far.
Okay, I could see that. 5'11" is acceptable too, right?
Did you hear that, Alec?
Well,
I meant for your corner. Never mind. Go on.
The 5'11" for me still is kind of like when I watch him play, I see Mighty Mouse internally. You know, like he's going to play with I'm bigger than I actually am. But then there are other moments where I'm like, is he big enough to play in that nickel slot spot the way that I foresee Christian Parker using him? And I just don't. Alec, this is the question that I have right here. I can't tell if he plays the modern nickel well at just the college level. I feel like the projection has to be considered whenever you look at his size. Can he play bigger in the run game? I'm not sure how much more he'll put on his body. Like, I just don't know how much more he's going to be able to put on. But I do know that like he needs a little better tackling technique. But he competes big, and that's something that it can get you so far, and that you're fearless and you're willing to put your nose in there. Jordan Lewis was one of those guys that no matter his size, he was willing to put his nose in there and make tackles. He looks very comfortable in zone coverage. He has great eyes when it comes to what he sees in the backfield. To use Alec's word, he has oily hips. He shifts in and out of his inside and outside with a lot of ease, and his footwork always puts him in good position. I love him as a nickel blitzer. That was something that stood out about this guy. Whenever you put him in as a nickel blitzer or cornerback blitz, he gets to the quarterback, and it's not just like, hey, I missed like the offensive tackle didn't even see me. There are times when the offensive tackle tries to block him, and he makes a move inside, gets him off balance, and then cuts back outside. Amazing body control on this kid. And so whenever it comes to nickel blitz, he has actual pass rush moves that throw the offensive linemen or tight ends off balance. So this is a dude that I like, and I think he's going to be a late first round, probably high second round pick, but he's one of the top 4 or 5 corners in this thing, even though he is a little undersized at 180 pounds to me.
Okay, see, what I was saying was not that far out of line.
Yeah, the height has no problem with me, but the weight definitely concern.
Alex, so we like him off the blitz, but have questions about him as a pro.
Coverage is good too. Coverage is sturdy. I feel like maybe I would like to see him have a little better ball skills. I just didn't feel. I felt like the balls hit his hands, but it never really stuck, and that's something that I'd like to see a little more of.
I think the world would be better off with that for sure. Alec, what say you?
Yeah, I do think I wouldn't be shocked if he goes top 25. I think Combine's going to do a lot for him just talking.
Why is that?
Because he has the want to, like Corey was talking about, especially in the run game. He is undersized for just a typical run defender, but he's got the willingness and he's got the downhill trigger. As soon as he sees a run play, he's there. You know, he's got the want to, and one thing that I love is that he's not a peanut punch guy. He's once I've stopped your momentum 100% and you're not going anywhere, I will grab the ball and I will rip at it as much as I can until the whistle blows. So he will force some fumbles, but he won't take risks in doing so. He's physical enough, and the want to is there to where I think, whenever he gets drafted, they're going to tell him, hey, we want you to put on 10 pounds. And he'll say, okay, how do I do that? And he will figure it out. I do think his coverage is probably better than people anticipate. The only thing that will get him in coverage is if he's trailing too far on some of those more complex routes where you are cutting inward. I do think that whenever he's trailing by a stride, maybe 3 strides or so, he's going to get lost sometimes. That's going to happen. But he's got the competitive energy, like Corey said. Whenever I talk about oily hips, like another reference that I can make, another illusion that I could bring for you is he's like a mirror in my mind. Whenever he's lining up in front of a receiver, a lot of the time off the break, he is mimicking their exact movements. And that's why he doesn't trail very often. He is mimicking their movements right off the break. And right off press, it doesn't matter what kind of concept they're running. He is going to mimic what they are doing, and he's going to stay with them in transition from off the line to that top speed. So I think just everything up top is enough to say the lack of height, the lack of size, I don't care. I think the want to is going to prevail more times than not. Outside of a 50-50 ball downfield against an A.J. Brown type of receiver in the NFL, that's the only things that scare me. Other than that, I think everything else can be cleaned up because he's so technically sound.
Okay, man, I love that.
He's a good player, dude. He's a real good. I think put the tape on this guy, you'll be like, I like this player a lot.
And this feels like the kind of thing where if you ever were going to consider some sort of mini trade down, you would love for there to be a run at other positions that would stack up some of these guys.
Yeah, Alec, if let's say Delane and McCoy were gone, or maybe you just don't love McCoy for whatever reason, and you wanted to trade back and pick up some extra picks, this guy would be available in that place for you, and you might feel pretty comfortable with that.
Okay, fascinating. Great breakdown, y'all.